Hey guys, what's up? It's Ripe again. In today's video, an incredible Karen blocked access to my farm with 3 massive bulldozers and insisted I must join her HOA. Here is what happened. Let's dive right into the video. I own a ranch in South America that I love everything about aside from its unfortunate location. I cannot say for sure, but I would guess the area was all farms and ranches at some point. Now, in modern day, I'm dealing with being separate but really close to a residential community that has an HOA in it. And not a nice HOA that just wants to make things better, but instead a power-hungry group of people that want everything to be the way they want it. And anybody that doesn't comply with that can leave and find somewhere else to live. I'm not creative with names at all, so for the leader of this HOA, I'm just gonna go with the good old-fashioned Karen. Now, Karen is known for overreaching her actual authority that usually results in making members do things they don't want to, like repainting their house when she says or not having a party. This time she reached way too far when she came to be and explained that the HOA had eminent domain over my ranch. She also clearly had zero idea what eminent domain was and just assumed throwing around big words would get her what she wanted. And my guess is it had worked for her in the past. For those wondering, it's when the government can force you to sell property because the land is needed for something important. An HOA cannot claim this, and they were not even trying to say the land belonged to them. She was trying to say that eminent domain meant that she was allowed to build things for the HOA on my property, and that would mean that I was part of it and had to pay dues. Dues way larger than anybody else because my property size was so much bigger. I argued with her that she had no right to take my land, and if she bothered to look at property records, she would see I am outside of the HOA territory. Going so far as to pull it up as she stood in front of my house to show her. She of course had a response that only a Karen would have. Karen, you probably just photoshopped that, I know the truth. Me, this is not photoshopped, it's just a map showing the lines for where everything is, directly from a government-sanctioned website. Karen, well, they redid the maps and the new ones show that this is actually HOA property. Your maps are just old and outdated like everything else on your ranch. I don't know why she had to turn that into an insult, but it was clear I had no chance in trying to reason with Karen like a normal human being. In her mind, she owned my land and nothing I was gonna say in that moment was gonna make her believe otherwise. Me, I don't care what you say, I know that I'm not in the HOA and I won't be giving you a penny, and if you try to build on my land, I will have it knocked over before a frame is even built. Don't mess with me. Karen, don't threaten me. She marched off like I was the one accosting her instead of minding my own business. About a week later, I was off the property with my entire family and I came home to see 3 giant bulldozers on my land. They were all labeled as HOA property right on them. She did not park them off to the side either and instead spread them out in a way to block all roads in and out of my property. She had basically barricaded me out of my property. I could still try and hop a fence, but I had no way to get my truck on my property. And it just was not feasible to do that walk, especially for my wife who was pregnant at the time. I went right to Karen and demanded that the bulldozers be removed. She told me that it was now HOA property and she could park them if she wanted. However, she would move them to not be in the way of the road as long as I signed papers submitting to the HOA jurisdiction. That would give them free reign over the land and I would pay a monthly due to them. I was not giving her anything after pulling a stunt like that. She went too far, blocking me out of my home and business. I was lucky my family had somewhere else to stay, and in the meantime I stayed on the ranch with my oldest son to try and keep things running the best we could. Taking care of the animals and collecting eggs and milk even though we did not have a way to ship them out. I called a lawyer as fast as I could to try and get a court order forcing Karen to move these damn bulldozers. The lawyer filed the paperwork and tried to push it as urgent the best he could. Paperwork stating the HOA had claimed false eminent domain of the land and using bulldozers blocking all access in and out for the owner, which is me. The judge ruled in my favor and ordered that Karen was not allowed to block the roads in and out of my property. They were ordered to be removed, but Karen was not going to legally stop without a fight. She tried to counterclaim that the HOA had seized ownership of the property and that me and my wife were actually squatters that they were trying to evict. It did not work, of course, because as she seemed to not understand still, I'm not part of her damn HOA. She cannot seize land as the HOA if the property does not fall within their territory. Also, there would be legal records of this kind of thing filed. She was looking for some weak excuse that could never actually work in reality. Now, you might be wondering, because I was, where does a Karen get 3 bulldozers? The answer to that was her son, who owned a construction company, a company who had a loose contract with the HOA to build the facilities on my land. A very suspicious act that, if followed through, probably would lead to some money laundering and kickbacks. It just reeks of a shady deal to me. It probably also was why she wanted to use my property in the first place. Because as much as she acted like she wanted to build things to help people, I was not buying into that. She wanted to get her son a big job and a ton of money, when the buildings would probably just end up being things she wanted that did not benefit anybody. I was not finished or satisfied with just getting my land back. I filed a huge lawsuit against both Karen and the HOA for attempting to steal my land, blocking me out and potentially ruining my source of income. And of course also endangering the animals by not giving me access in and out to take care of them. Also damage to the ground where the bulldozers ran and ruined my grass. Basically, any small petty thing I could think of was being thrown at them. Not everything stuck, as some was minor and petty. The big ones did stick though, and the HOA and Karen had to both pay massive amounts of fines for what they did. Also, Karen separately was facing criminal charges for harassment, illegal seizure of property, trespassing and some other stuff. Her son was not off the hook either, because a construction company has rules to follow on where they park their machines. My farm was not an acceptable spot for that, and his company had to pay large fines to the government and to me as well. By the time the dust settled, Karen was forced to resign from the HOA as she caused this huge mess for them and lost them all that money. Privately, she also didn't have enough money to pay for her house, and her son, sure, couldn't help with his company losing the money as well. She had to sell the house and leave, and it's probably the only kind of circumstance I don't feel bad about the person losing their home. She did it to herself, all because she wanted to stretch her power more than she could handle. And here, ripe stars, absolutely no empathy for entitled corrupt HOA Karens. At least not from me. Anyway, the next one is a malicious entitled mom story, and it is really interesting. So my 17 female mom, 41 female, took me out to get makeup the other day for a friend whose birthday is coming up. We entered the store and all was going really well. I was checking out concealers while my mom was on the other side of the shop looking through various shades of lipsticks. Enter entitled mother, late 20s female with her devil's spawn. I say devil's spawn because her kids were misbehaving wildly and she did not bother even once to tell them to stop or something, not even a minor rebuke. I say devil's spawn because that about sums these 2 kids up. They were running wild around the shop, throwing testers around and being a general nuisance. My mom stepped in when the kids started poking their slimy little fingers into the lipstick testers. I get it, they are just testers, but ew. People are likely gonna use those to decide whether they like their shade or not, and God knows where those fingers have been. Like, one of them was legitimately picking his nose minutes ago. My mom, having 4 kids of her own, looked around to find their parent. EM was the only one in the shop besides us. My mom called out to her, and this is how the conversation went. "Mom, excuse me, are these kids yours?" I know, very obvious, but my mom is a very polite person, so it's not to me. EM, yeah. Mom, can you please tell them to stop touching the testers? They are not toys. EM, if it's such a problem, why don't you handle them? Oh boy. My mom left the shop for a few minutes and signaled me to not follow her. She came back with 2 buff security guards in tow. The kids were still poking their fingers in the testers. The guards walked up to the kids and in the deepest baritone ever, one asked, "Excuse me, what are you doing?" The kids looked terrified and cue the waterworks. EM immediately stormed over and began reprimanding the guards for scaring her poor little angels. She then saw my mom nearby and she screamed, "You did this!" At this point, she was practically hissing like a cat. "How dare you teach me how to parent?" Mom, in an eerie monotone, "You told me to handle them, hence I handled them." She screamed more obscenities at my mom, the guards, anything around really, but the guards were not having it and told her to leave. She created quite a scene, but thank everything that is holy, she left. My mom had quite the story to tell at dinner. A rather comedic encounter with an entitled parent. And yeah, ripe stars, I would say props to the mom. She certainly knows how to handle an entitled Karen. The next one is a malicious compliance story once again. Today marks the beginning of a new era. An era where a school district stands up for itself and thumbs its nose to the 1%. Today's MC is really a continuation of an original MC from 2 days ago, where a student demanded that I let go of their phone, so I let go and let both his phone and a school window get damaged. Originally, administration was letting the parents know that there's no way that they'll be paying the parents for a replacement phone in this instance. A security guard and 34 other students witnessed this kid take his phone aggressively out of the teacher's hand and subsequently launch it across the room. It was 100% the student's fault. Administration was willing to drop it and move on, hoping that the family of this student would do the same. That was definitely not the case. The parents of the phone thrower demanded that the teacher, me, aka OP, pay for this phone, saying, "You better pay for my son's phone." This is when the admin of my middle school with district backing performed the best MC I've seen in a bit. I'm proud to be at my school district today. The district has come to the conclusion, after investigating the incident, getting statements from students, witnesses, me, security, etc., that it was the student's fault that the phone flew in the air. The district agreed, however, to pay for the student's phone as it was technically in a teacher's possession when it got damaged. It was an iPhone 12, so the check was probably around the area of $800. Then administration did them one better by also sending the parents a bill for the window to the tune of $1,678. It was not a typical window, nor is it easy to replace. Once the teacher let go of the phone, it was in the student's possession, so now it is the student's fault. I'm not sure if this is the argument they made, but I'm presuming this is their justification for it. Doing some quick math, it looks like they are paying $800-something either way. Plus, the student is in ISS for destruction of school property. And the next one is a company malicious compliance story, because we just cannot get enough of malicious compliance. By the way, let me know what you think about malicious compliance as a subreddit in general in the comments. I for one really enjoy these stories. Anyway, this one starts like this. Last year I was ordering an upgrade for the server room at work. It was a large expensive upgrade that cost over $500,000. If you've ever had to call a manufacturer to order equipment at this amount, you may know that once you get a good reputation with a manufacturer, they tend to cut red tape for you to maintain a good working relationship with your company. I, in the past, have bought equipment for my personal use at home, and it takes forever to get a rep on the phone, and they often screw you on the deal. While I was making the order with the manufacturer, I inquired about getting personal equipment to see if it would be possible to make a separate order for myself with my own money. The rep had no issue with it and was happy to make the second order. He placed both orders and even gave me a company discount for my order. Now, I did make it perfectly clear that the second order was a personal order and not in any way connected to the corporate account or order. He confirmed this and the order was locked. A few months went by and the equipment showed up in the loading dock at work and everything was in order. However, my order never arrived at my house. I attempted to contact the manufacturer but got put on hold for hours. I gave up for now and figured I would try again in a few days. The next morning the equipment showed up. It was an exact match for the equipment that was sent to my work. Now keep in mind the order I placed for my house was a Blade server that was just over $6,000. This was not what I ordered. I went into panic mode as I cannot afford this equipment. And when they bill me, I'll be screwed. I checked my bank account and found no charges yet. Now I'm really panicked as I now think that they billed it to my company, effectively double charging them. I expect I will get fired. When I returned to work after my weekend, I emailed billing and got a copy of the invoice. Well, they did not bill my company for the equipment sent to my house. Now I'm really confused. So at this point I drop it. It's a pain to get them on the phone and I cannot call the corporate line when it's a personal order. A month later I got an invoice in the mail with a late charge for failure to pay. Okay, now I can get this fixed. I see they want $6,000 plus $250 for late charges. That's odd. I called the retention number and got a rep. I gave her the account number and she told me she needed to transfer me to a manager due to the amount. Okay, cool. The manager picks up the phone and I try to explain the bill is wrong and the equipment they sent was not what I ordered, and he immediately cut me off with, "You need to pay the invoice, you're in violation of the contract and we will sue you if you don't pay it immediately." I tried again to explain the equipment issue, but again he cut me off and demanded that I just pay. So I told him I would take care of it then. I said sorry for being an inconvenience and I will call my bank right away. I then confirmed the bill amount and the part order number from my equipment labels. He confirmed it and said, "See, there was no mistake." And as I was about to hang up, I know I heard him say in a smug tone to someone else, "That's how you deal with poor dickheads." So I called my bank and got them to unblock the transaction. It was stopped for fraud alert, the amount was paid, and I'm now the owner of a $500,000 server room in my basement. A few months later, I had to order some more connectors for the fiber lines and spoke to their rep again. I inquired about buying personal devices again, since the last time went so well. Apparently, they cannot do that anymore. Something about a manager fraud investigation. I cannot imagine what that's about. The next one is titled Petty Revenge Story 1. Back when F-150 Raptors were hot and hard to get, I was selling a car at our dealership. We were one of the few dealerships not playing any games on the Raptors. The deal was MSRP minus any rebates you qualify for, plus our $300 dealer fee and TTL, which was super reasonable. Then came Tom. Tom was a royal PITA from the start. First off, he thought he was gonna haggle, and it got so bad that I straight up told him, "Here's your deal. If you like it, let my manager over there know and we'll take a deposit and order the vehicle, but I have other customers to attend to." Then I got up and left to meet my appointment. Tom was scheduled for noon and it was now 3 PM, a full 3 hours later. While Tom sat at my desk for a solid 15 to 20 minutes, I saw him get up and walk over to my manager's office. My manager ended up taking his deposit, explaining the process, and sending him off. For your information, out of the 1,000 plus customers I've sold, there was only one customer that I did that to, and it was Tom. Tom was special. It got worse. Here are the things that Tom did. Tom forged a dealer offer sheet from a competing dealer, trying to get us to give him a $3,000 discount. Tom called our Auto Group HQ several times to complain. Tom called Ford HQ several times to complain as well. Tom was repeatedly caught in lies. His lies would normally be, "Bambi manager said," or "Bambi said," when we didn't. A few weeks before his vehicle was due, he sent out a massive email that included our CSRs, myself, my manager, my GM, basically listing his demands and being incredibly unreasonable. A few hours before that email, a customer inquired about an F-150 Raptor, but unfortunately the order banks had closed and we had none in stock. We never had any in stock, by the way. But this new customer seemed super nice. So I went to my GM and said, "Let's sell this Raptor to this new guy who seems super chill and nice and can easily afford it, and let's refund this dude his money and tell him we cannot do business with him." My general manager agreed, so my general manager told me to write up the email and CC certain individuals. I wrote up the email. "Dear Tom, after careful consideration of your last email and your past experience, we have decided we cannot meet your expectations and would not want you to be disappointed in your vehicle. Therefore, we have decided to refund your money. We have instructed our accounting department to cut a check and overnight it to the address on file. You will be receiving a refund in full. We hope you can find a dealership that can match your expectations. We wish you all the best." Then I called up my customer from earlier and said, "Hey man, we got a new Raptor that just became available. I can send you the window sticker and it's yours for MSRP plus the $300 dealer fee plus TTL." I sent over the window sticker. After I did that, Tom called me furious, telling us he was gonna sue us. I passed the call to my GM, who gave him our law firm's phone number and told him his lawyer could talk to our lawyer and asked Tom to not call back again. Then the new customer from that morning called me back and said that he was on the way to meet me to place a deposit and start on the paperwork. And now let's move on to the next story. It starts like this. It's been 10 years since my parents died in a tragic plane crash, leaving me orphaned at the age of 15. It was a struggle to come to terms with the fact that I would never see them again, but I was lucky enough to have a blood relative, my divorced uncle, who stepped in and took me under his wing. After my parents' death, we moved to a beautiful neighborhood near a beach in South Africa. It has been my home ever since my parents died, and I love my uncle for giving me a new start at life. Though I cannot say that his life, and by extension mine, was without any problems. You see, the time my parents passed away was also the time my uncle finalized his divorce. Let's call my ex-aunt Karen. I met her a few times in the 3 months they were together, but after their divorce my uncle refused to let me meet her. Still, despite my uncle's reservations, Karen tried her best to stay in touch with me over the past decade. At first, I appreciated her efforts to keep in touch, but as time went on and her behavior became more erratic, I began to feel uneasy about her constant presence in my life. Whenever Karen would call, she would ask probing questions about my life and my relationship with my uncle. At that time, I didn't realize, but she also tried to plant seeds of doubt in my mind, telling me that my uncle did not really care about me and that he was only taking care of me out of a sense of obligation. Despite her efforts, I never let Karen's words get to me. I continued to be civil to Karen and respond to her messages, but I made sure to keep her at arm's length and not let her get too close to me. Though I never told my uncle about her constant probing in my life, which might have been a mistake. My uncle passed away 2 months ago, leaving me all that he owned. It was a shock to me, as he had always been in good health and had never given any indication that he was nearing the end of his life. Still, I am grateful for the time we had together. After his funeral, Karen attended the wake and looked visibly upset. I thought that maybe she had loved him more than she had let on, and I made a point to talk to her and offer my condolences. However, the next day when she came to visit me, it quickly became apparent that she had other motives. Karen asked me if I would sell her my uncle's beachfront property house, my only home that I had. I was taken aback by her request, as I had always assumed that the house would remain in our family for generations to come, and also because I had literally nowhere else to go. When I asked her why she wanted it, she gave me a vague answer about wanting a change of scenery and a fresh start. I told her that I wasn't interested in selling the house and that I planned to keep it in our family. She seemed disappointed, but she didn't push the issue any further. From then on, our conversations were polite but distant, and I couldn't help but feel like there was something she was not telling me. Despite the tension between us, I decided to invite Karen to stay the night at my place, hoping that it would help to ease some of the animosity between us. That evening, we sat down for dinner and reminisced about the times we had spent with my uncle. Karen seemed genuinely touched by the memories, and I felt a sense of relief. But as the night wore on, Karen's demeanor changed. She became more talkative and seemed almost maniac at times. I tried to brush it off as her way of coping with her grief, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The next morning, I woke up to a commotion outside my door. When I opened it, I found 2 police officers standing there with Karen standing behind them. She accused me of stealing her gold bracelet, claiming that she had noticed them missing from her purse that morning. I was taken aback by the accusation, and I knew immediately that I was being set up for something. I allowed the officers to search my home, but I had an inkling fear that Karen might have planted those bracelets in my house, and that was exactly what happened. The police found the bracelets in my bedside drawer, and Karen immediately started shouting at me, calling me a thief. But the officers intervened and said that there is no clear evidence that I was the one who took it. For anything to be proven, Karen would need to submit a FIR and make a court case against me. She quickly backed out at the prospect of court and said that she will overlook my behavior just this once. After the incident with the missing bracelets, Karen became increasingly insistent that I sell her my uncle's beachfront house and threatened to sue me if I didn't comply. At first, I tried to reason with her, but Karen would not be dissuaded. She continued to hound me, sending me countless emails and messages, and before long, I began receiving letters about various lawsuits that Karen had filed against me. The charges were absurd, ranging from forgery and harassment to trespassing and destruction of property. I knew that Karen was behind it all, but I couldn't prove it. The stress of the situation began to take a toll on me. I could not sleep and my work began to suffer. Finally, I reached my breaking point. I hired a lawyer to help me deal with Karen's legal threats and filed a restraining order against her. In the end, the restraining order was granted and Karen was forced to stay away from me and my property. It was a relief to finally have some peace, but I couldn't help but feel saddened by the turn our relationship had taken. 1 week after all of this, I woke up to the sound of shuffling and soft whispers outside my bedroom door. Instantly, I knew something was wrong. I grabbed the baseball bat I keep under my bed and slowly crept towards the living room. As I reached the doorway, I saw Karen rummaging through the cupboards. My heart pounded in my chest and I quickly reached for my phone to call for police. I knew it was gonna take them a long time and I knew I should have just shut myself in, but I don't know what came over me. After calling the police and waiting for 15 minutes, I shouted, "Me, what the hell are you doing, Karen?" Karen jumped, startled by my voice. She turned around, looking guilty as charged. Karen, where's the will? Me, why are you doing this? Karen, give me the damn will. I deserve to know what's in it. Me, I have the will and uncle left everything to me. Karen, that's not fair. I should have gotten something too. You're just like your uncle, always trying to keep me down. Me, you know that's not true. Don't blame him that things didn't work out between the two of you. Karen, don't you talk to me like that. You have no idea what I've been through since your uncle died. You're the reason he's dead, you know that, right? Me, what? No, I'm not. But Karen just screamed and started throwing things at my way. I tried to retreat inside my bedroom when out of seemingly nowhere Karen held up a gun and pointed it towards me. Me, keep it down, what are you doing? Karen, I'm sick of you and your lies. You stole my husband from me and now you're trying to take everything else I have left. Me, Karen, please put the gun down, we can talk about this like rational adults. Karen was not listening though. Even though she had a gun, she still lunged forward towards me and I stumbled backwards, knocking over a lamp in the process. She continued to walk towards me but slipped on the shattered glass and I found my opportunity. I quickly grabbed her torso and knocked her out with a well-placed hit to the side of her head. I made sure she was breathing before tying her hands up and carefully placing the gun far away. The police arrived 20 minutes later and I explained the situation to them. They took Karen into custody and asked me to come in the next day to file the report. It's clear that Karen is in desperate need of help and I know that after the court hearings she will surely be in jail for not only breaking the restraining order but also all the other things she did. I also hope that they will be able to find her psychological help before she hurts more people or even herself. And yeah guys, if you cannot get enough of my content, please don't forget to check out my podcast by searching for Ripe Stories on all major podcast platforms such as Spotify, Apple or Google Podcasts. Furthermore, you can find bonus content by going to patreon.com/ripeyoutube or by clicking the join button here on YouTube. For a small monthly fee, you will get access to dozens and dozens of exclusive videos you won't find anywhere else. Thank you so much for watching and I hope to see you again tomorrow.